Today is July 27th, 2019. We are here in Miami Beach in my apartment. Doing,
New location.
Yeah, doing Talk Story for the first time.
We're getting personal.
We are
getting personal.
It seems like a good idea. This is season 2, episode 4. And we've got Miguel on the show again.
Oh, yeah, it's been a while.
Repeat offender.
Yeah,
Welcome
it's been
back.
a while. Thank you for
We
having
had
me
to sucker
back.
him into it again.
Appreciate it very
Again,
much.
yeah.
Again, he was like, I'll just watch. And then
He's like, do you need me to sit in the frame?
after a while, we're like,
Just to make sure
I'll
it
be out.
works. Just to
Yeah.
make sure
Let me
it's
see.
cool.
Let me see if this mic is working. Oh, it is. Okay. Can you hear me well? Okay, good.
you give him the headphones
I'll just
for
stay
a little
here.
bit, and he's like, this sounds
Caleb
nice.
fucking box me in. I'm out.
Let's see where
I'll
it
stay.
goes.
All right, so that's Miguel, and we also got Caleb and
here.
Christian.
You. I like that we're doing it here.
It's kind of fun.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like that homegrown, just sitting around the table like we do.
Yeah.
And
We do sit around the table a lot. I make dinner here all the time,
Yep.
and we sit here and do pretty much this without recording it.
Yeah, and
Yep.
we were doing it the other night, and we were like, we should just
we should
record
have just
it
turned
here.
it on. Yeah, I thought I recorded it, and then it went for like a minute 27. I'm like, that's not an hour 27. I swear that's what we were talking. So maybe it just kept on overlapping each other. Voice memo. What's going on? I thought you press
don't know.
play, and then. Well, anyways, it was kind of cool.
We almost had it.
That's why I'm
we'll
here.
try it now.
It's because that happened.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. And,
was a good idea.
It kind of helped change the format up a little bit
Yeah.
of how we were doing it. I mean, it was fun. We were doing it out of the shop and whatnot as well. But
Maybe we can really just do it from anywhere.
good. That's
Like
the whole
that.
point.
I think
We
that's
can.
what.
That's
I think that's
kind
what.
of the point of this piece of equipment.
What is
this?
What is that?
This
Is
little
that
Our
like
recorder
Geiger
thing.
counter.
Is it
No, this is the.
We are
Almost
not
like-
radioactive.
almost like a voodoo doll, like a pin. Stuff
A
like
laser.
that.
Or a
But
la-
it's
ray
a
gun?
laser.
They might
It is-
need that
oh,
for the storming of Area 51.
Yes.
For sure, I'm there with this.
You would get.
Oh, we
in-
record. Are we doing a podcast from there?
Yes.
It's really far from the ocean, but close to a wave pool. Close enough.
What wave?
Rick Kane, where you at?
It's in Texas and New
Oh.
Mexico. It's southwest area.
You're not supposed to
Texas is really big, though. If it's not also in Texas, it's not close.
Yeah, you're also right about that.
That was
That was an
My
idiotic
grandpa used
statement.
to
I
say,
recant.
The sun is risen, the sun is set, and we ain't out of Texas yet.
Oh,
They would drive from
Insane.
Minnesota to the tip of Texas every year to be like, it's
Every
only-
year?
Yeah,
Wow.
for snowbirds.
So the tip of Texas. Where is the tip of Texas? Which
Galveston.
state?
Alamo,
There's a lot of tips.
close to Rio Grande.
And why were we doing
Every-
this?
To run away from the snow.
Oh,
This
would've
has
done the
nothing to
same.
do with
I would've done
surfing.
the
How
same.
did we get here?
that's
I don't know.
really that's impressive though.
Yeah.
That
a
is-
long
I was
ride.
very interested in that story.
Off the tracks
good.
already. Perfect. Welcome back, gents.
It's good to be back. Let's go into some weekly happenings, or actually just like recent happenings. I guess since we're doing this monthly, there's been little waves, pretty frequently, which is
Once a week.
Yeah, like once a week, a little southeast, east southeast, and it's been really fun to be able to stay wet during usually what is the flattest time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Chris got first shop fully opened.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Very nice.
Reopened, we should say.
Yep, we're stoked to be back. It was about 45 days off, but
I
a little
wouldn't say
blood,
you took
little
45
blood
days
sweat,
off.
and lots of tears.
There was just no place locally that I could buy wax for 45 days. I don't think you're.
That was,
I almost ran out. It was getting problematic. It
I was
yeah, as,
was a good thing there was no waves that whole time.
we're stoked
Yeah,
to be
it
back.
did come into like there was just like this.
was weird. It was-
like a flat spell in the.
You know what? Thank you, Mother Nature. Thank you, South Beach, for
You opened back up and they're like,
yeah.
oh, good waves.
There actually was relatively soon right thereafter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, it's worked out well.
And it seems
bring
like
the waves.
It seems like the peaks have shifted over a little bit closer to where the shop is as well.
Interesting.
I'm just saying.
They have-
Last couple times surfing, it's not like I'm biased now. I'm surfing right behind the shop, which is at the end of First Street, not yet Second Street. I don't know. Seems like there's. Well, we'll see, right? The first north swell.
I
will
parked
just-
my bike in a different spot, and so that's why I'm always over there.
Right.
I come through the park now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice park.
It is.
It is
I mean,
everybody's
I love that.
off.
So
Nice trip back.
We're a block north of where we were before. We're starting to stay in the neighborhood. It was a little challenging finding something because doing what we do, there's not too many places, and rent's expensive in South Beach, and that's just the way it goes. And certain coastal cities that are just huge tourism spots, you're going to run into that. So it makes it a little challenging for the mom and pop to kind of follow through. But we were able to find a good spot, great hotel, the Marriott and the Stanton Marriott, and they've got a beautiful pool deck. They want to do stuff. We're launching our launching our monthly surf parties or like happy hours there every first Friday, which is coming up next week on the pool deck. We're going to do the pool deck. It's actually one of the greatest pool decks down here on South Beach because you can actually see the ocean from the pool deck having a beverage versus all the other pool decks in all the places, for the exception of maybe the Eden Rock. Or I think there might be one more that you have the sand dunes and all the pool decks are on the floor. Right. So the pool's elevated and it's pretty awesome. And we're stoked to have partners like Lolo's and Azabu and everybody in the hotel.
And they flanked the park there, so it's really nice.
Right.
Just in the north.
Right. So we got a lot of cool things happening. We're stoked. We're a little smaller, but we're tightening things up, and it's
cool spot.
Yeah, we're amped,
cool
and all the locals been swinging by, and
yeah, that's funny. Everyone.
Yeah, it's just
I saw all the bikes outside the other day.
Right, and everyone's like amped that they're able to kind of come back and do that, So yeah, we're.
There's 45 days without that routine.
It hurt a few people. I can remember coming down and people being like, "What are you doing?" Like they're just like, it was just one of the, "What are you doing now?" And here we go. We open? We good? And I'm like, "Oh no, almost." So, but it's cool. I mean, I love it.
So the psychologist office is back open at the first shop counter.
I think that's what it was more than anything else.
It's like, I got a lot on my mind.
Okay, I need a little feedback.
Time to come back.
I got you.
Doctor, you can't
wait
for 45 days like this.
Next week, first Friday of every month, we're going to launch our surf happy hour parties at the Marriott. Cool. Valet is cheaper. Typically, it's $25. It'd be $15 for that night. Just kind of come see me for a sticker. Oh, wait, this isn't coming out until...
well, it'll come out, but everyone will know from then on in.
Right. So, anyways, every first Friday, we're going to be doing something at the Marriott. It'll usually start at 6 and end at 9. We're going to feature a different film. This first one will be Nathan Fletcher's Heavy Water.
Nice.
Yeah, amped for that one. So
I'm excited about that.
So, yeah, we're excited. We'll have food and drink discounts.
On the day it came out, that might be this coming Friday. Depending on how quick we turn this around.
That's right.
But if it's a Friday and it's the first Friday of the month,
if you're listening to it later,
then you want
any
to
first Friday of the month comes through.
Come to Marriott.
Easy to remember.
Discount. Yeah. First. Weird how we did that.
I see what you did there.
Great after surf session there, place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what's great is that we're working with the spa that's there, and we're gonna have. We're going to set up a little massage table outside of the shop when the waves are good or when there's waves.
How about just when the waves are bad? Because I can really use a massage right now.
Absolutely.
Listen,
I can do it on any day because the spa's down to do
I'll
stuff.
take a sympathy massage.
And they wanted to do it for like super cheap. We're talking about like 15, 20-minute quick massages and whatnot. So when there's waves, we're going to have that kind of service out there.
That's fantastic.
And again, that's what's great about teaming up with a property like that that's kind of open to doing things. You're like, oh, wow, this is a whole new world. So we're amped. We can't wait for season to come around, both for surf and tourist season. So now, like, the summer allows us to kind of tweak things out and figure it, and we move forward. But we're back. We're
back.
When
is that starting?
Starts next Friday, which would be August 2nd, I believe.
We're ready
or 3rd.
into August.
August 2nd, I think.
Wow, that's wild.
8th month of the year. How are we feeling about that? Technically, what are we at the heart of summer right now? Like, we are in the crux.
Dog days.
Dog days.
Coming into the dog days of summer.
Almost Christmas.
Is it ever feeling like Christmas around here? It's just like it's Christmas. Really? It feels like July. It could be. I don't know. But, So, yeah, we're amped. That's what we got for the local haps on my end.
Gail, any haps? What's going on in the neighborhood?
I don't know. It seems like a lot of changes are going on. We have the new walkway in the back. That's new, right?
Right, because that walkway now goes from South Point all the way up to almost you can go to Harbor House now, can't you?
Yeah, all the way on the beach.
Really, all the way that far?
Yeah, because I think the one spots behind 53rd and 55th that was like the last ones are done. Only problem is the segment where there's still the wooden boardwalk section you can't bike. So technically you're supposed to walk that. Bike. So you'd be biking all the way up to it, you got to walk it, but they're in the process of replacing it. So we're almost there. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
How about the lady in 3G? Is she still allowed?
Who?
I'm kidding. As far as weekly haps, The lady in his building in 3G. You didn't hear about her?
Anything?
No.
Got nothing.
What?
I got nothing.
All right, well.
3G.
I'm going to the Surfrider Annual Summit. I would hope you would have
that's
come
right.
to
Nice.
receive your awards.
I know. I was hoping.
When is that?
I could have gone as well.
That's going to be August 9th, 10th, and 11th. UC Irvine.
Yeah, there was a lot going on. Funds weren't really available to kind of make it happen, so I was like, thank you for the award.
Should I accept on your behalf?
Please do. You should. Please do that.
Represent.
That's awesome.
That would
That'd
be great.
sweet.
Yeah, I'd be
Can
like,
I
I
do that?
accept this on Chris's
Seems like
behalf.
you should be able to.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah, for sure. I'll tell them.
You
I'll
can
tell
take
them to come and do
a
that.
face-
I was kidding until you said that.
No, I'm down.
A
That'd be
picture of your
awesome.
face with a like a little
That'd be
stick
awesome.
on it.
Like a
Yes.
little stick. You'd be like, Chris says thank you.
Yes.
Like,
Oh my
Chris
God.
says thank you.
There you go. That would be
I
fantastic.
could do it like as a puppet show.
Right, go.
Here's Chris.
Chris, hey.
We could give you the
Congrats.
actual audio of him
Right,
saying thank you, and you just
totally
play it
ask
into
me
the mic.
questions and stuff like that, and I'll be like,
That would be awesome.
Record a little message for him, and he just plays it out of his phone into the mic.
there you go. Boom.
Wow.
Yeah. Blowing minds over here. Where's that emoticon?
That's why he's so good at the AV.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
That and the beard.
There it is, probably.
The beard.
But yeah, so what else? So you're going to surf fire thing? Are you nervous? Because you are speaking. You're on a panel.
Yeah, I'm a little nervous. I didn't
Have
really.
you written stuff down already, or have you just kind of been like,
You know I'm
going over your
planner.
head?
You know I'm a bit of a planner.
You
So
are.
I started thinking about it and I immediately freaked out because I was like, oh, I have no idea what I really got myself into. And then I looked at the lineup of all these speakers and I was like, oh, there's like a lot of big speakers. And I mean, I'm like on that Sunday afternoon panel where they're just like, oh, everybody went home, but if you want, this guy's still talking. But I'm not like headlining.
No?
But no, but it's an impressive list of speakers, and it should be a cool event. And I'm a little nervous to speak in front of that many people, I guess.
Right.
And then Mary Lou, who was supposed to moderate the panel, broke her foot the other day.
Oh, no.
Was it her foot?
So is she not going?
No, she can't go.
Oh.
It really sucks.
Mary Lou, maybe I'll go in your place.
Yeah, so I was asking what I
I'm
could
not
do
as
to help her
good
out. She had it all figured out, and we were talking about it the other day. What's going to happen on the panel? What sort of questions? What to expect? What the audience is going to be? What all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
What they might want to hear. What they might want to talk about. And then the next morning, she's like, "Yeah, not going. I missed a step, and it just went crooked, and it's all messed up.
So
She's got to be off it for 6 weeks or something."
So who's moderating now?
I was like, "Do you need me to moderate it?"
Oh,
I don't know if I can moderate and participate, but I can moderate. There's two other speakers,
it's
so
a good
maybe.
out. All of a sudden, if you were getting nervous about having a good speaker,
Dude,
like,
moderating
I'll
is
moderate.
hard. You're a good moderator. I don't know if I could be a moderator.
No?
I know I could write stuff down. I don't know if I could possibly moderate.
Carry the whole show.
I don't know.
You could do it.
Mary Lou was set for that job. I don't know what's gonna happen. So, interested?
Yeah? Cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. There's a lot of other interesting things about just going to California, I think.
That's right, because are you staying out there
Stay out for a little bit, a couple
Are
weeks.
you gonna get a van again?
No. I thought about it. I've been thinking about that
Should.
van again. Someone just hit me up on DMs about the van. And I was like, oh, you want to do the van thing? I was like, it's not all that it appears. Be careful.
Right.
Because it can go sideways on you kind of fast, and you're just like, oh, this kind of sucks all of a sudden.
Right.
This is not what I signed up for.
Usually, if it's something that you ate and all of a sudden you rumble stomach and in the middle of the night you're sleeping in the back of the van, you're like, oh dear Lord, where,
What does Rudy always say? High highs and low lows or
Yeah.
something like that.
The
Yeah.
highs are high. And the
When you're
lows
sitting
are
with the
low.
thing open, drinking coffee, you just woke up and you're looking at the break. I bet that's great.
It's one of the highs. You're just
Yeah.
like, this is what it was
Everything
all
in
for.
between that, I think.
Might be the lows.
Whew.
Like, that's the only high. You're like, man, that whole 10%, 90% ratio. ain't
Go look
okay.
at a van life Instagram. That's the highs, and everything else sucks. I guarantee. I haven't done it, but for sure.
That's why they're always making coffee in those pictures.
Yeah, because it's the only thing that's like, oh, this is easy and normal in a
Good
van.
morning. Yeah.
I suffer for this.
All right, well, I think we just kind of segued into our topic.
which is.
First topic.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, we were just talking about the Instagram life and the reality of Instagram life, and then
I see what you did there.
I'm trying to do what you do.
That was good.
Finish
That's
it out
pretty
for me.
slick.
That was good.
Finish it out
Pretty
for me.
slick.
Well, I mean, we had discussed earlier, and what the topic
There
was
we
is
go.
kind of going into
Close
the
it.
whole social, or at least media side of it versus print, and the difference between the magazines or the books that exist, or and what that meant to certain people, myself included, back in the dizzy. That would be the day for all you kids out there. And
Straight to Urban Dictionary.
and what that does for versus, everyone's kind of got on the gram, you're following these people and that person, you're kind of scrolling through and you get desensitized a little bit. Maybe the magic of of what you're going through isn't
There's
the same.
so much volume.
So much, so quick, and it just overturns. And
There's always something new, so there's no need to look at that again.
Right. And so that
Sometimes there is.
Sometimes. That's when you know it really sticks out, though. You're like, wow, I gotta watch that again. You're not on to the next thing.
Well, you know what? Let's take this from a different perspective, because I would argue that I like, the print stuff, and that's important to me. Clearly, if you come to my place, you'll see there's print everywhere. I've collected magazines and books for my whole life, really.
right.
And I don't do it digitally as well. Like my files of this kind of stuff aren't nearly as good digitally. But you can do things a lot faster and with a lot more. So the photos that you're talking about, the ones that stick out on Instagram, that's because there's been enough data that you've gone through to find that one.
Yeah.
It's the data sets are getting bigger,
Mm-hmm.
and so what's good really sticks out. That was, I think, maybe harder. There might be a shot in here that's marginal, even though it's printed, but because you can on Instagram see millions, and it's just oh, this one starts to stick out, and everybody else thinks that one sticks out. It just gets popularized and chosen through the volume of data.
But nothing gets as popular because there's more sources and people are paying attention to different sources. Where this guy was shooting for Surfer magazine,
Uh-huh.
and that was the one that everybody's looking at.
Right.
So if you're paying attention to it and your friends are paying attention to surfing, everybody's seeing the same exact stuff.
Right.
Oh, I would think
Where
that
now,
he just submitted first to all those magazines. I think that's the path that they all have to take. That none of them get signed as staff right away. So he just would
right?
have
But
signed.
his stuff was a bunch of it was printed in Surfer magazine, and
Yeah.
when something comes out in Surfer magazine, everybody sees it. Where now, what is everybody seeing? There's nothing. Everybody who's paying attention to surfing is looking at different channels, and there's some crossover, but there's nothing that is the source for everybody for photos.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no photo that everyone saw.
I see. Yeah. I guess.
So
you're
you
right.
could talk to me tomorrow in the lineup and be like, "Did you see that picture?" I'm like, "No,
Right.
I didn't."
Right.
But
I
you
follow
there's
that
so much of
choice.
this.
Because there's so many different sources
so
that are
much-
coming
Right.
that's spitting so much stuff
Yeah.
out.
Where when the print was happening, you'd be like, "Did you see the new thing in the
And-
surfer?"
and they had.
And anybody in the lineup is like, "Oh yeah, I liked this photo."
Uh-huh.
So it's a different interaction with the people around you because of that.
That's
Interesting.
And that kind of plays to the point that we're kind of getting at him. What were the feels that were giving that the magazines back in the day that you were waiting that for your monthly subscription or for whatever it was, and I remember personally myself, I'd freaking be so psyched to go ahead and see that plastic, it sucked, but the cover that was on for the Surfer mag, but and just be able to crack it open and just know that was the new, and you almost took that time to go ahead and flip through every page, and there was just, you sat there and you kind of just analyzed every drop, and it was just a different feel.
I used to get excited. I would go to Publix with my mom when I was a kid, and they would have the new surfing magazine that would come out, right? So it's one of those things where you look forward to that one magazine. I didn't have a lot of friends that surfed at the time, but when you did have the friends that did surf, they knew that one picture,
Right.
Everybody always knew that one medium. We didn't have the internet,
I feel like I still refer back to certain images in certain magazines, and there's still people that refer. Oh yeah, I remember. Like there's this one issue of Surfer Mag that had the Richie Collins and all the different haircuts that he would have. And so there was like a full section of all the different, and they had names. There was like the poodle or this or that and whatnot. And I remember I tried to emulate a few of them.
All right, so let's take this up from a different perspective, though. Because if you're saying that you all would see it, but doesn't that mean there was just like one or two different like sets of editors that would basically
there were a couple gatekeepers.
Sure.
And whatever they wanted you to see is what you saw.
I mean, remember the
and
movie?
now it's anarchy.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of.
I guess that's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, I guess it's like.
It is. I mean, but
And
doesn't that go in so many other mediums like music industry as well?
Oh, it mirrors the music industry perfectly.
Right.
Yeah, I've thought about this way more and heard people talking about this way more in regards to the music industry, but it's like the exact same thing. We have a different experience now because of the like lower barrier to entry. Every phone has a decent camera on it.
Right.
So like anyone can post content.
So the playing
and
field.
if the content is there,
even?
the quality of the capturing maybe doesn't matter as much. And like, so there's so much content. Like the barrier to entry is super low. There's no gatekeepers.
Right.
And it's anarchy. And you think, and it kind of seems like it happens, the highest quality is gonna like everybody's gonna see the really high quality stuff. Then there's some tomfoolery with ad sales and stuff gets weird.
I was like, rabbit hole.
Yeah, I was dying. I was like,
so it's not quite
like,
perfect.
go
but
deeper.
yeah, pretty much. It's like, have we seen Alice yet or what? That's interesting. But it's, you're right. There was gatekeepers. But like, there are certain movies like, well, for example, North Shore that came out back in the mid-'80s and stuff like that. There was a part that it highlighted where if Rick Kane wanted to survive on the North Shore, he needed to do this, this, and this. And that was get pictures taken of you and blah, blah, blah. And that's where it was like such a big thing to be in front of those photographers. And it was like, because those were the major photographers to be in front of, Jeff Devine being one. And then at that point, those guys would give you your best chance to make it into the magazine that made you famous, if you will, and stuff like that. So there were those gatekeepers, whether it was the photographers of that time to then the editors that were choosing whatever the photographers had to kind of make those decisions on who was in and who was out, and that really shaped a lot of the culture. Like, imagine there was a few people that were really dictating cultural stuff in regards to surfing and what we were seeing, what we were getting. It's pretty epic.
The path that they were on, though, seemed like it was different. Like, it seems like they were creating they were doing the same shit as people do now. They're creating content, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they were trying to create better. Like, they were looking for better spots. They were looking to ride better equipment. They were looking to like be pushing the envelope and do that. Now it's just like the speed of it makes you create that so much more. So it's not like you're going like deeper into what you do. It's more like you just got to do it a freak ton more.
Right. Well, because you got to figure there's people that were budding photographers doing this, like nipping at their heels and doing the same thing. But like, I can try to sell it as well. I can do a shot just as good as you, this and that. And imagine the hoops and challenges these guys had in regards to getting a better shot than this and that without the technology that we have today.
Right.
That kind of takes away some of that risk, if you will,
It's a big difference.
The challenge.
These guys were very, very committed to doing this, and so there just couldn't be as much
That's the difference in the barrier to entry.
Right, exactly.
You gotta have gear. You gotta have money to buy gear. You can't just swim out there with a GoPro.
Right. And nail it, right? I mean, that's now like the surfers themselves. They don't need a guy following them all around it all the time to go and do it. They're just doing it themselves, and they're maybe editing themselves. If not, they might give it to someone else that sponsors them to edit and do it, whatever, and then boom, it's done. Things are working for these companies or these businesses and stuff like that versus having that one gatekeeper. All these different algorithms.
Let me ask you, like, when you guys... All right, so the GoPro comment, I was like, wait a minute. All the GoPro stuff I see sucks. Like,
that's true.
No one
can still tell.
If someone's like, yo, I just came back on a trip, come see my GoPro stuff, I'm like, oh no.
I'll see it online.
It's gonna be like,
I'll see it on your Insta.
It's like a lot. It's just like a lot of noisy, shaky, like not well put And it's just because you're not you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Just because you have the equipment doesn't know how you know how to do that. With other sorts
Could
of content,
editing not replace maybe some of that?
I've seen like it. Every once in a while, someone will actually like use like iMovie correctly, and they'll like be like, "Oh, I know which exact sequence of things to put in," and I put it to like a nice little song, and it's like 18 seconds long, and I'm like, "Nice trip to Costa Rica. There was a sunset at the end and everything. I loved it." But most of the time, it's just like, you're just like, "This is like way bigger than it looks in the thing, but you can't really tell," and you're just like, yeah, "All right, like we stop watching the GoPro footage now."
You need the montage.
You
is what you're
need
asking for.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like, for this stuff, at least the surfing stuff, most of it, like you need someone that knows something,
Yeah.
right, and have some decent
So
equipment.
the
to do
barrier
it.
to entry isn't that low, but it is still lower than it
Way
once
lower.
was. Much
Yeah.
lower than it once was.
Yeah.
Professional gear doesn't cost what it was, and there's more people that are just doing it for
it.
whatever reason.
Well, I think we're just consuming it.
Yeah. There's a bigger market. I don't know about like in surf photography, but music has gotten now to where like the stars aren't as big. There's more working musicians.
Interesting.
The big names, there's like a couple of them that are really big. And then like there's so many people that make a living at it.
I think
Because it's more diversified and no one's
Like
paying the
local
same.
working musicians? Because I know my sister's one of those. Or
Right.
like working
that kind of
musicians,
thing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because my sister will do like 3 different things. She teaches about 28 kids.
But it's not like you have to get if you want to work as a musician, you have to get a record deal from a
Right.
record
No,
label.
no.
And then you're going to make it big.
Right.
And as a photographer, you're probably not like, either I have to get printed in Surfer Magazine, or I'm not going to make any money. There's like all these
used to
steps.
be
There's
like
all
that
these
now.
steps in between now.
Yeah.
And like, I buy a little bit of gear, and then I get paid for a little
So
bit
you
of
can still be a
this thing, and
working
blah, blah, blah.
photographer
there's
because
so much
you're
content
using the
now.
medium of social media or anything else
Yeah.
to go ahead and continue to show your work. And yeah.
I don't know. I'm sitting over here talking about stuff I know nothing about. So who knows?
You ever picked up a camera? Never.
They're good observations. They're very good observations. I mean, Turner said the same thing. We had
But if we're wrong, email us.
Oh yeah. ThankYouSurfing@gmail.com.
And maybe we'll talk about it next time.
Indeed. Instagram @ThankYouSurfing. @ThankYouSurfing on all your major networks.
Great plugs. All right,
Boom.
back to the show.
Yeah, so Turner Sparks, the comedian, you can check him out on Instagram @Turner Sparks.
He just recorded a special.
He just recorded a special. He's a working comedian.
Yeah.
And he's like, just because you don't see me on HBO doesn't mean I can't make a living. And I was like, holy cow, really? Tell me about this comedian life. And then I talked to other comedians that he's friends with, and I was like, oh my God, there's like all these people that actually can actually do this. It's not easy. And it's like a very different path
Right.
than what most people would be like, oh, I need to show up 9 to 5 and I get
Right.
my
But
pension and my health care.
It's his passion. He's been able to figure out how I got to pay my bills, and I got this is my bills and stuff like that. It doesn't matter how you pay for it,
But
right?
it's basically like content, entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just a lot of market for it, I guess. Music, comedy, surf stuff, I guess.
Hopefully podcasts.
Podcasts have blown up too. I saw the numbers on podcasts.
Oh, for
recently.
sure.
It's like we were a little ahead of the curve. I'm so proud of us.
Yes.
Nice.
That was all Caleb's doing, really.
Cheers to that.
Caleb was like, "You guys
Oh,
want a
really?
podcast?" We were like, "We were gonna do a radio show
On Instagram.
on Instagram."
On Instagram stories and 30-second clips.
We're like, so what we're trying to do is we're gonna do a radio show, which we're gonna do it in installments, and it's gonna go out on the internet. And we're gonna. He's like, you mean a podcast? We're like, no, it's gonna be a radio show on the Instagram. He's like, you mean a podcast? We're like, no.
Okay, fine.
Okay, what's this thing? A podcast? Sounds delicious. How long did I microwave this?
So fun.
They're great. You should listen to them. I was just telling Chris about the Planet Money that I just listened to about how you shouldn't recycle. It's bad for the environment. Go Google that and listen to that Planet Money.
It's interesting. We had a pretty good talk
It's
about
very
it.
interesting.
Kind of goes along the lines of where recycling has not necessarily been at the level of what we thought it should be, and where it kind of goes past that, and you're saying, oh wow, 90% of the stuff that we're throwing out there that we think are being recycled is not. And then I think the big tell is when the plastic industry is supporting recycling, they're like, no, yeah, recycle. That means you're going to keep using plastic, and that is really the root of where it needs to change. It's just changing up our pattern altogether and saying, all right, well, we got to figure out ways. 2024. Well, we got to, honestly, I mean, but we all know that, and it's funny because I was talking about with Scott Stripling today from Surfrider, Blue Water Task Force, and
water quality's been good. Like to see that.
Yep, it's been good. But he was just talking about, he goes to his local Cuban place from where he lives, and he brings his own plastic or not plastic container, but his container and cups and stuff like that, because the place still serves things in styrofoam. So he tells me, he's like, I'm allergic to plastic, and he hands out whatever.
That's a good line.
And now every time he walks in, they just know.
Great line.
They just know, and he's just like, I'm allergic to plastic, and it's like, it's awesome. Like, it's hard to change people's behavioral patterns, but that's where it's really going to change. It's not all of a sudden being like, oh, because it's like out of sight, out of mind with recycling. You're like, I feel like I'm doing the right thing, but you're really not doing the right thing. So it's just, all it does is justify you continuing to use plastic, because you're like, oh, something's getting done with it. And then the realization is nothing is getting done with it. So
let's try, guys.
You're right, and it's just, so it's one of those where we're like, hey, we got to go ahead and figure out ways to go ahead and create different types of packaging. I know that the algal form type of packaging out there, I think seems like something to continue. There's a good company in Australia that's doing some awesome stuff to be able to wrap things up nicely. But, it's about changing your patterns and your behaviors.
But do recycle your tin and aluminum. They actually use that.
Right, there are.
Those for sure do it.
Yeah.
But the rest of them,
right. So
put it in the landfill.
Right.
In China. Oh, you guys don't want it.
No, don't ship it to China. They throw it in the ocean. That's where trash islands come from.
But a lot of it is that we have to chip away. Like, if there's just individual people that just change their patterns, then eventually other people start to catch up. It's the same thing when I was a kid in the mid-90s, and Captain Planet just came out and stuff like that. And back then, that's when we were just being introduced to recycling.
You've been doing a lot of Captain Planet talk lately.
I'm just saying, like, I feel like that for me, there was like that first reference.
We stopped recording at some point.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah, we were
the
talking
flex
about...
capacitors are working.
All right,
Oh.
we're back.
Like,
we're back.
I left my tool.
There's an
you
edit
hear me?
point there.
Edit point.
There was probably also some bad audio from the cameras. Something happened. Sorry. New equipment. Apparently, we don't know how to use
Hey, me.
how to
New
use
equipment. So, do you know you're talking to yourself? I'm just saying.
All right, so that's our segue into the next topic.
Right.
Next.
What's the importance of all this? Like we were talking about people creating content and it going out through different mediums, whether it be through books or through magazines or radio, whatever. It sort of becomes an archive of what's happening during the time. Like, if you look at this is like the Master of Surf Diary. This is like his collective works from like the beginning of shooting till whenever they published the book. And it stands as like a history of what was happening at the time. I know our friend Rudy looks around every once in a while when he's taking pictures, and he's like, "This is never gonna happen again," and I gotta make sure that I document this. And it's I don't know. I don't want to speak for him, but it looks like he has a responsibility for it, and he is careful about it, and he's like, "Oh, I need to
He talks about in 20 years this is gonna be important."
Right. It's part of his DNA. It's one of those things where what he sees and how he sees it, if it's not for anyone else, he enjoys that. He wants to be reminded of that, and it means something to him. And that is where I think that importance comes from the first, and then from everyone else that might be able to see what it is that he sees can either gather that same kind of feeling of wow, that's really
sometime
good or
in the
not,
future.
right? So maybe other photographers are like that as well, right? That, it's or is it on a whim? I'm sure there's plenty of those. Holy, can't believe I caught
I think
that.
it's just certain people, the whole historic preservation of South Beach. They just saw a certain something at a certain time, and were like, "Oh no, this is important. Don't do away with this.
Right.
Preserve this in some way, because people are going to look at this in the future and say that this was important."
And that's what's always interesting. Even friends of ours that are artists or photographers, and being able to follow them on their stories and whatnot, and being able to get their perspective on things. And it's funny how you can almost see a personality in a picture that they take. You could see that, who that person is a little bit more, because you have that close connection with them that you actually know who they are, that you can kind of correlate the two. But even so, you say, that's you, or that's you.
It just makes you feel something.
Right.
You may even be like completely wrong about why or how or what they were, and it still right. gets you going.
Right.
I think this show started to be like an archive at times when we started talking to some people about their stories about surfing in South Beach, and you're just like, oh, glad you said that while we were recording, because somewhere at some point it's going to be cool that that's somewhere
documented.
It happens when you talk to old guys a lot.
Right.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's why those are my favorite episodes.
Turtle and all these guys, it's true. And I think that's what we maybe tapped on when we first started, was that, a lot of these older guys, for whatever reason, I mean, I don't think we're really putting their stories down, as far as telling them in just random conversation. I remember this and this and that. And I'm one of those shop groms that are just like, tell me more. And
tell me about the way it was.
Yeah. I love hearing that. I think it's because I have a love for history in general, let alone my local history, and then kind of piecing it all together, and then being able to hear stories from like Holliver and the North guys, and then hearing stories of South Beach and the South guys and stuff like that. And then, because I grew up in the middle of the beach, and I was going back and forth, but to be able to hear these stories over the time and then be able to piece it together, having those guys be able to tell that and have it somewhere where people are able to tap into, is cool. And
so what about the tap into part? Do you think we should be like pressing these as like vinyl episodes and stored away in some like climate controlled closet somewhere?
That would be pretty cool though. Imagine having a podcast on a vinyl. Where all of a sudden, like,
someone has to have done a podcast on vinyl already.
That's way too expensive. Nobody's gonna do that.
Someone's gonna do that.
Someone's gonna do that.
And then
somebody might be printing them to tape somewhere.
Right.
But it'd be funny because if you did that on vinyl, like, it'd be good, like a little marketing piece, if you will. Like if you had a podcast.
But you just give those guys 8 tracks of their podcast. Right. Be like, this is when you guys told the story about that. Here's your 8-track.
Good luck playing that.
You thought you'd feel right at home.
Right. I got this 76.
Talking about Maverick. Sitting under the
Somebody has a backlog of empty ones of those somewhere. They could just print nonsense to them. Here you go.
But imagine that you got that scratchy feeling of a podcast where you just like put it on vinyl and it's like,
and just hear like
that'd be kind of that'd be kind of epic if you had the money to put into
some of those good stories. Some of those stories are pretty good.
Some of those stories you could put on vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you should just do a collection.
Right.
Like,
you just do.
When we went up to see the heavy sides, there's a couple of good stories up there.
It'd be cool to pull that, put it together, put it on the vinyl, and just have that as a collection of the best ofs.
Yeah, so like again, it's the idea of archiving it. Right. In what form does it come? Like I collect all these books and all these magazines and stuff, but do you do it with your Instagram like favorite photos? Like there's a way to archive them or portfolio, or what do you do with them?
Yeah. Save them. Also, there are companies that'll print books off of Instagram.
That's true.
But that's like moms are doing that.
I've done it.
Oh, okay.
That's probably not surprising.
Whoops. It's like
I'm not saying that more people.
It's actually in the mail for your birthday.
Shouldn't be doing that. I think it's a great idea, but I think moms are the ones that are utilizing it.
I went with the photo album.
It's a good move.
But yeah, there's just somewhat like that's why we kind of like went back. We strayed from the original format.
Shocker.
And then we came back to the format. But doing the weekly haps and the report and forecast, I know like sometimes maybe we don't get the episode right out, so the forecast is like, oh, that was like 3 days ago. Thanks a lot. But it's still a record of what was happening then.
Right.
And like, you can look back, maybe be like, oh, that was
You can understand our mood because it's been flat for super long.
There's even like little bits of like, oh, there was like stuff going on in the neighborhood during that time, or oh, there's nothing going on.
We do that for work at the shop. We have like an end of day report, and so in that you can throw notes on there and stuff like that, and it's cool. It's true. You can kind of go back and you're like, I remember when was that, and then you kind of like do that little word search in your emails, and all of a sudden it pulls it up, and you're like, oh yeah, blah blah blah, and you kind of refreshes the memory a little bit.
I've read the ThankYouSurfing Instagram report backwards. And you're like, oh yeah, we did know that there was going to be waves. Oh, then there's waves, and then no, it didn't show up as much as we thought.
That's awesome.
And then there is waves again, and then
I think that's so great. I think that's so great that you archive that literally every single day.
for years.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
There's going to be
huge.
an AI that looks at those photos at some point and figures out some nonsense that we can't figure out now.
You're talking about long range plans.
Oh, sorry. I can edit that part out.
No, it's fine.
It's all about the sarcasm.
Hey,
No,
AI,
we're on a
if you're
mission.
listening.
We're on a mission. So yeah. Anyway, just like the archiving of the what's going on at the time, and I think photographers have always sort of done that. Other artists do it really well too, but then I don't think that like the quote unquote influencers
Right.
are doing it for these reasons.
No. No. They're,
And I think
they're trying
that's-
to get paid. It's an instant moment. It's a flash of like, how does this work for this? Boom. Okay. And next. And how does it work for this? Okay. And boom. And next. And I mean, not maybe all of them, but for the most part, I can't imagine that it's not looked at more as a job. Of like, how am I going to set a mood, or how am I going to influence this person because they're realizing they're supposed to create an emotional connection to the brand that they're selling. So it's like, how do I be me to sell this brand as organically as I can?
But I think people just do that now. I wasn't even thinking now influencers. As soon as you started talking, I was like, influencer. Oh, everyone's an influencer on their shit.
Absolutely. Right, because you're curating.
Right.
Somewhat. I mean, unless you want to.
Well, that's I think the difference is like, if you're archiving, like if you're looking at stuff and being like, oh, I want to shoot this and I want to do like my best of capturing this moment or whatever, it's a very different thing than like, I want people to be jealous that I ate lobster this morning for breakfast.
Right.
Like, oh, my boyfriend's so great because he made me like
Right, and that's
champagne.
it's like everyone's just throwing their best life on
pancakes
there.
or
You
whatever.
know? Hey,
Champagne
how's this?
pancakes,
What's
I like that.
I was really lost for words there.
You went down the path.
Yeah, it is.
Something decadent for breakfast.
But there's a big difference, and I think like when you go on a trip with your friends, you can see that sometimes like Rudy especially, because like he's a photographer, so like he's taking pictures for the sake of taking the picture. It's not like he's like, oh, I'm gonna sell this, or like people are going to like like me for
Right,
this
right.
or something. It's like
He's not taking a picture to make some people jealous.
what's that?
He's not taking a picture
yeah.
to make people jealous.
Yeah.
Which
yeah,
is
that's
what
it.
He's taking a picture to appreciate the
Instagram
moment.
your Instagram stories are like, ha, check out how dope my life is. And he's like, that's a photograph.
Yeah.
And that's a photograph.
And I think that's what makes a big difference in like these books or the idea of like archiving things. It's because you're trying to be like more, I guess, truer to what's actually going on, or like factual about it or real about it. It's not like, I don't know. It's not sugar coated and like for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, I can't sugarcoat this. I got to piss. I'll be right back. And break.
So you know what? There's a
We're
guy in my
recording.
buildings from the Miami Beach water and sewage, and he's telling me about the sargasm.
Oh, we're getting to sarcasm talk.
Oh, here we go. All right.
I didn't realize that this is a thing that is fairly new in the abundance that it is, right?
The abundance.
The abundance.
Yes, because of the pollution that we have.
Yes, runoff.
Mm-hmm.
Fertilizer.
Yeah.
From sugar fields?
Well,
You can point your
here
finger at
as
sugar if you
well as,
want,
but
sure.
yeah, right.
No one's gonna be mad at you about that.
But you'd have it in other countries that don't have much regulation that really hold anybody accountable, i.e. your Brazils and Central and South Americas. And
So are they getting worse blooms than us?
Yes.
it depends, I guess, on currents, really. I mean, but whatever they're doing in addition to, I mean, you got to also think all the Gulf states, right? How many golf courses are there that are by the water and whatnot, and all the runoff that you got going on, or any sort of farms that are doing anything, you know, if they're not organic, nonetheless, there's runoff
Even
going
if
in,
they're
and they're
organic.
just a lot of nutrient-rich water that's cruising through, and it's kind of exploding those blooms a lot more. And they were saying there's a full bloom that's like literally from here, I mean, or at least from like South America all the way to Africa, like full like, and it's gnar. You know, it's and one of those things where, like, I remember growing up, we always had seaweed, and I've always been one of the biggest proponents of being like, dude, leave it alone. You know, it's just like it comes, it goes, blah blah blah. But it, you know, last summer probably kind of set the alarm for me in regards to it, and it was like, hey, this is something we're gonna have to like figure out and kind of put it as part of the game plan, because this isn't just like, oh, let it do what it does. Like, we're doing stuff to this planet in a rapid rate where we're just like, oh, in 10 years, oh, in 30 years, oh, in 50 years, and really it's on the doorsteps right now. And what we
because
do
of the last 10, 15,
right,
30
of thinking
years.
of thinking like that, right? And people, so you know, it's that sweeping it under the rug, and eventually you're like, yeah, you trip over whatever it is that you're sweeping because you swept so much.
Yep.
And, you know, it goes back again to the plastics that we were talking about. And it's, you know, it's just changing up patterns and behaviors. And, you know, so that's sargassum.
So is anything can be done with this sargassum, or is it
Well,
just...
I mean, there's people that are
No,
using it good and create some sort of oils that you can make some plastics out of. I know that they're making some sort of renewable, I mean, some sort of bricks to go ahead and make housing out of them nonetheless. So, I mean, I think there's ways of doing it, but you know, you got to remember there's also an ecosystem.
It just shouldn't be.
Yeah.
There's an ecosystem
Shouldn't
that
be
goes
there
along
in
with
the
the sargassum.
quantities that it is.
Right.
And that's there because of us.
Right.
Putting too much crap
In the
into
water.
the soil, and it goes out into the water table. And
Who
out
else
to,
getting it? Everyone?
Yeah.
The whole East Coast?
The whole Gulf
whole
Coast,
one?
yep, Texas, all the way straight through the west coast of Florida and pretty far north. I've talked to people last year when it was some guy on the podcast, the guy from Melbourne, that was random, that we
Yeah.
just came into the shop. He was I'd asked him, and because I remember we were in the thick of things, and he had said that he was getting it up in the Melbourne area and stuff. So, and it's all in the Sargasso Sea, which is just east of us.
I mean, that's why it's called that.
Right.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
supposed to be there. It's a very, very rich area for juvenile fish and everything. It's like a breeding ground.
Ah, but it's getting outside of its territory.
No,
Well, there's also there's a couple
it should
different
be there.
types. There's
It's
a couple
just-
different
it's
types.
just
There's-
expanding because of too much nutrients. It's
Too much
like
quantity.
Yeah,
More
they're-
quantity than before.
right,
Okay.
exactly. It's like if you were just like, oh, okay, I've got a garden, and you weren't fertilizing it, and then all of a sudden you're like, put a little fertilizer on it, and it'd be like, ooh, we like that. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm gonna put more, and it's like, ooh, we like that too, and it's like more and more and more, and then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, the plants are actually taking over the house now. from
Feed
this
me
little-
more, Seymour.
Exactly. It's just too
A
much.
little old school reference there for those of you who might
got
be
it.
old enough to get that one. Little Shop of Horrors. Anyone?
Yes,
Little Shop
yes.
of Horrors. Okay.
Been a
Anyways, but going back to that, there's different forms of sargassum. But that's a challenge, though, is other countries are doing things where they don't have regulation for it, but there's an ecosystem that's involved in a lot of these things. So we got to be careful, right? We don't want to play God and being able to go ahead and, because it seems like the decisions are always one or the other. Either wipe it all out or it overruns you. There's never a thought out process of, okay, we can collect it if it gets to this point. Then once it gets to that point, we repurpose it for this, and then we're able to kind of continue to go ahead and make this out of it and whatnot. But until it gets to the shoreline, we can't do this. You know, most people are, you know, a lot of other countries are just having conveyor belts in the water, just literally pulling it up and stuff. So you're pulling up little turtles, you're pulling up little animals and stuff like that. But and for the United States, is we have the Endangered Species Act that protects a lot of these turtles and also protects the seaweed, the sargassum. So until it gets to the shoreline and it literally is on the shoreline, not floating in the water, that's where we as a city can kind of do stuff and whatnot. And I think personally, if it's going to get that bad, we kind of put it into our sea dunes. Because then I think as you put it on the sea dunes or the sand dunes and stuff like that, you build that up and then layer it with some sand and stuff like that. We got to build resiliency against storm surges. Storms are going to get a little bit harder. So if we at least get those a little bit higher, and that the only beach entrances that we have, we're doing man-made barriers there to go ahead and protect us, then we're doing something. We're repurposing it in that form nonetheless. Also, I mean, people are like, oh, take it off the beach. Let's take it somewhere else. But you're like, think of all the fossil fuel you're using, of all these trucks and tractors that have to come onto the beach. It becomes a construction site to remove it and this and that. So, and then it's not going to stay here on the island. No one wants it around here. So it's got to go back into the county on the mainland. And then these trucks have to come back and forth. And it's just like we're creating a bigger problem by trying to remove something that's relatively natural that, yes, has kind of been a problem created by man. So it's like we have to think this process through versus just being like, it smells, I can't go in my water, I got to figure it, like, let's figure it out now. You know, and that for me is the biggest challenge of dealing with people, is because there's so many people that are just like, you know, it's more aesthetic than it is thinking the whole process through. And I think there's things that we can do with it that if we sit back, all right, this is only going to get worse. How? Because it's a long-term thing. It's not. It's the same thing with like when Zika came around, right? It's saying, hey, listen, mosquitoes have been around here for 1,000 years, thousands of years, long time. They're going to be here after us. So it's not like saying, hey, we're going to eradicate mosquitoes altogether by ahead and spray Naled that's going to go ahead and just hurt more people than it is do any good for it. We got to create teams, a mosquito team, if you will. That is, your team is smaller at certain times of year and it's greater at certain times of year where they're kind of checking things out. What I'm just saying is that there's a long-term program that needs to be done with the sargassum seaweed in the collection. Like to collect, that's the collection of sargassum.
A lot to do with surfing.
Right, none whatsoever. But we got into seaweed that has to do with the ocean.
Naled.
Kind of makes it happen.
Naled.
I know. Bring me back. Reel me in. But
this is what you can expect.
I went
if
down
you
with you,
stop
that's
by
all
a
right.
first surf shop.
oh, long conversations. Get me started.
Come by. Buy
I
a
dare
pair
you.
of shorts and you get a tirade.
Pretty much.
Tirade with a towel.
No, I don't have 45 minutes. Thank you. Oh, come on. Stick around a little longer, please.
Honestly, sir, we haven't even seen any seaweed. We'd just like to go home.
But you said you liked it here. But yeah, so the seaweed thing, as you can tell, you can kind of get into it. And there's actually a couple great meetings that are
So
coming
what are we
up
doing
about
about it again?
The county
That-
just decided that they're going to remove it from 3 hotspots in Miami Beach. South Point, 4th Street, 28th Street,
Yeah, 29th or so.
and up them, I think, 50,
Yeah, but the other-
50.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever
that means.
it's one of those things where the ocean or the beach itself has so many different jurisdictions that are involved, which that then comes
I
to
can't
the
believe they're
problem
gonna
because
do
there's
it
the
here.
bureaucracy. So you
I'm
have
like, there's no
the county-
to be removed. I was like, I look out the window every day and I'm like, yeah, I see it float by and then I see it keep floating.
Right.
Like, I don't understand what the problem. Do they go out and catch it? I'd like to be on that team. I'm gonna be on the seaweed catching team.
but that's
Manually, people.
But
Yeah,
that's,
it's like
that's
me
the
with
thing.
a
It's something
net
that's going to
and, like,
continuously
big
happen.
pockets.
So I'm saying, so you're like, this isn't like, oh, let's go ahead and figure this out for the
Surf with big
season,
pockets,
and then it's
you're in the
good.
seaweed team.
No, it's
You
like
get a
we got to
badge.
build a team that builds towards
Nice.
it, and kind of continues to clean
I'll
it.
be on the
and do
seaweed
this.
team. We gotta figure that.
I catch it in my beard and you can't even tell.
Yeah, I mean, we're already on the team. We just don't have a badge yet. Let's talk about that new, which I think was
Like new
what-
seaweed?
Oh,
Just
God,
kidding.
Christian. If I talk about sargassum one more time, I don't even know how to say it. Sargassum, sargasso.
Sargasso sea. It's a Sargasso sea.
Right.
Or is it a
but
Sargasso?
if you put it into like Google, you can get both.
Sargassum.
They're
I know.
both correct.
Blow me away.
Sorgasm.
It's a problem so nice they named it twice.
Let's move on.
What else do we got?
We were
The
talking
new,
about.
the new,
Are we opening
new.
this book at some
I-
point,
no, I
or did we
think-
miss that already?
I think we
Oh,
kind of
we
missed
missed
that
that.
point. I think
Whatever.
was
It
It
was
was
in the
awesome.
live.
Jeff Devine.
Yeah,
You know, we had-
Master
we
of
got your-
Photography, Jeff Devine. We'll
Right.
put that up on the blog, and
we
link
got
to
the
it.
couple shots that you thought that were kind of cool.
Yeah,
Briefly
they're
talk
in
about
the live. Go watch that. If it'll be down by now.
Yeah, but I
Sorry.
guess the point was that it's cool to have these like books and old magazines and stuff around, and then when you flip through them, you can be like, "Wow, that is a really cool thing that you can't see really on the internet anywhere."
Yeah.
And
Right. And that for me was kind of the biggest thing about it was, the feels that it gives you, a book, magazine, when you get it, what things were like versus, nowadays where you're just kind of scrolling through your finger and kind of just checking things out. And does it have the same kind of impact anymore? You're just like, cool. Whereas you sit with the book, the print, you just really explore every drop, everything that's in there.
so the new is us talking about a book on a podcast and then linking to the book so you can check it out.
Is that the new?
And then you were saying before, like about right before we started, maybe it was recorded, I don't remember. And like you get in a certain like chat group, and people will sort of like feed you what they think is good, and they act as a
we were
filter
asking
of all the other crap.
how do you see the right stuff? And I said you got to get in the right group
That's what I
chat.
said. Yeah.
Right.
You got to have your. I
So
mean,
like you can almost curate your group
Oh.
chats according to what it is that you might want to like. You know what? I appreciate this person. I appreciate the way this person looks, and blah blah blah. Whether or not they want to be in the group chat with you is a different story. But you can bring them in, and you can probably get a rounded perspective of what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, maybe we should. We should start one for Thank You Surfing,
Yeah.
Oh.
and then we just like
There's
post,
a limit.
post-
Get in quick.
and then we'll just post everything that everyone.
We should do one
like,
specifically.
submits.
Are you saying this right now? Is like kind of like
You
a
know what
live
we should
thing?
do it for? You should do one for the podcast.
Okay. How?
Thank
We
you,
gotta
sir.
set up a thing, so we're gonna make a group chat.
I just realized you're wearing my
We
shirt.
might. I'm wearing your shirt right now. We're gonna have to edit this out if it's a bad idea. So we.
The fact that you're wearing a shirt.
No.
Just
What
like
I'm
over?
about to say.
I'm just kidding.
We
Stop
set
messing
up-
with the device. You're moving things
Yeah.
around.
I just made a funny noise. I heard it. We set up a group chat.
Uh-huh.
So if you're listening to this right now or watching the video, hi, cool.
What up?
You're gonna email ThankYouSurfing
At gmail.com.
if you want to be in the group
Or
chat.
you can just like DM.
or DM
whatever.
ThankYouSurfing on Instagram, and we're gonna make a group chat just of the people that are listening now, because there's like 7 of them. I know that there's not that many of you, and the number of people that will reply, it's gonna be even fewer.
Yeah,
so
I'm
it's
gonna
gonna
report
start
more
out.
than 7, Caleb.
Whatever.
My mom has told at least like 2 or 3 of her friends who promised to have watched.
Okay, DM him, get in the chat, because I want to see what your mom's friends are talking about in the chat and what Instagram
Mostly that
posts
you
they're
need to
sending
shave.
us.
That's probably what they want. They're like,
Bring it on.
he's such a
Wow, is that
You
like a
can
thing?
tell me
And you
directly.
too. They'd be like, they're such handsome gentlemen. Why don't they just shave?
There's a 12-year-old under this, not a handsome gentleman.
Why I can drink is because I have a beard. I
That
like
idea?
it. I dig
don't
it.
know.
No,
or
I dig it.
this is the edit point, and that'll disappear.
I thought it was a good idea.
All right, cool. We'll do it. Email or DM.
Get into our chat. Slide into his DM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just always sounds
And
so
then we'll
weird
start it
saying
up.
that.
I guess
I
you
don't know
four
really what that
are-
means.
I think it means just DM me.
You're in. You have
Is
to
that
DM.
right? Yes.
DM
Like,
him.
just
Be
saying,
like,
like,
I
you hear
wanted
people
to-
say it, it's like, why does it sound so sexual?
that
Yeah,
the chat
why
is-
does it have to
Listen,
be
this
that
person's
way?
trying to
It'll
slide
just be,
into my
it'll be
DM
the
and,
talk
like,
story chat. There
Yeah,
you go.
the talk story chat.
And then
Just
you guys are
writing
in.
somebody
All 4 of
something?
you
That's how it
automatically,
works, yeah.
It was-
whether you want
Yeah.
to or not, you're already in.
So he's gonna create the chat, and he's
Talk
gonna put the
story
4
chat.
of us in it.
Awesome.
And then as people DM him and are like, "I want to be in that chat you talked about," then he adds them.
Uh-huh.
I like it.
And we're gonna see. It's gonna be a
actually-
random group of people. And
actually,
I'm
you
just
know
gonna
what?
start sending videos to
I
it.
just realized I'd need 2 chats.
You need 2 chats.
Yeah, because we need to do 1 chat with everyone that's been on Talk Story.
Okay.
And then another chat that's whoever's
I like it.
just been watching.
What if we
Cool.
just do a
Has
chat
been
for
on
every
yet.
episode that we've had?
I don't have that much time on my hands.
It seems
It's a lot of work.
Redundant.
confusing.
I couldn't
like,
watch
Caleb and Brad on this one, or was it on that
way
one?
too many
Was
memes.
this-
Anything have to do with Thank You Surfing?
Huh?
Like if you're part of Thank You Surfing, is that close enough to a chat?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is like the new news, like these sorts of things where it's like they're in different chats and you get different feeds of different information, different things, and it's like, I guess that'd be something. Let's print all the photos from like one chat, and that becomes like your Masters of Surf
Ah.
Photography Jeff Devine. Well, it'd be very far from that, but it'd be interesting.
There'd be some weird stuff in there.
That's how you could like archive it.
Hmm.
The internet started like with directories back in the day when there was like enough web pages and enough people. They were like, oh, we need ways to like sort through all this crap. How do we do this? We do directories, and the directories were all like human directories until you're like what was it?
Google.
Yeah, well, Google.
So search engines kind of
Yeah,
came around.
but-
Google came out. Yes.
And what
So
they
it's
just,
kind of like we're heading in that direction with social media. There's like, to get the good stuff, you can almost like get your directory, and your directory is like your group chat. You're like, oh yeah, if I want to see this kind of good stuff, like I'll look at this chat. You know you have them. Like you got your friends that send like the stupidest memes like you could ever see. You have your friends that send like only like children getting hurt. Like you're like, these are weird people. I don't know how there's even this many kids falling off swings.
friends of those.
You know,
Hey, check out this kid getting bashed in.
There's the ones that are just like sending the chicks that are like always just like twerking at like the Cafecito spot, and you're like, okay, I don't even like, how does this happen in Miami? You're just like, cool.
You have to invite me to some of these chats.
Only in Dade.
What's that?
Only in
Only
Dade
Dade.
nails it. Like, it's so funny to watch like
cringe
the
when I
local
look at
news. The local news were always referencing Only in Dade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I seen Channel 7 referencing them a bunch of times and stuff like that.
Really?
I'm like, how great is it that people are sending you stuff at Only in Dade before they're sending it to the news?
They're looking out.
Because they want that, the news is going to give them like a little hype, and like, yeah, that's like whatever hype, that's local hype. I want international hype. I'm sending it to Only in Dade.
I'm gonna get likes.
That's the likes. That's the hype.
And yeah, it comes from the people.
And it's
like-
and more broad reaching. Imagine that now people would rather send it to a social media handle that is able to reach more people around the world than the local news that you would be used to. Most people would be like, oh my god, I made it
So
on the
there's
local
editors
news.
there, right?
At the news.
No, at
Only a Day, yeah.
Right?
They're curating. They're getting sent stuff that they're like, nah.
This is the I don't know how much they do now because there's so much stuff.
Probably.
But and that's part of the thing with like flipping
That's the
through things.
speed.
There's like so much
Yeah.
content coming out. It's like every 15 seconds, and it's like they have to keep new thing. They have to keep people wanting to go back to their place to check something new. And if it's giving me such anxiety.
Yeah.
Like having to
But
go ahead and
then
stay
the
on top of
algorithm
stuff like
is
that.
the one that
Keep up
edits
with
it.
That's why.
Because I only see like 4% of Only in Dade's
That's true.
photos.
That's true.
But for some reason, it's the one that Instagram is like, this one is the one you should see.
Based on what it is that you've liked in other pictures. And blah,
Who
blah, blah.
knows?
Yeah,
Based on the
that's-
magic of Instagram.
That's true.
Nobody knows. And so then everyone's trying to hack that so they can be on the top of everyone's feed.
I think that this is where the group chat.
That's where the group chat breaks the algorithm a little bit.
Yeah,
Like, lets you take control of it again.
because you have more
And
numbers.
then they're going to algorithmify the group chats. And we're going to have to make new group chats.
I think this is where we end the podcast.
Listen, we probably have to shut
I think we
it down
broke
now.
Caleb. I think we broke Caleb.
His head's exploded.
I'm like, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole anymore. Things are getting scary. It's getting
We
dark.
should probably just bring it back to surfing. I don't know what happened.
We happened.
What happened? Like, we haven't talked about surfing in a while.
What's surfing? Seriously,
Well,
I haven't done that
all
shit in
this
a
stuff
while.
happens in surfing, so all the photos we're talking about are like surf photos. And you're like,
Oh, yeah,
Would
and
you-
again, relates to exactly that we were talking about, the old and now the new. That new of how things are handled, blah, blah, blah.
I look forward to when I see ooh, the one that actually has good taste chat sends me good photos and good things to look at. I'm like, let me check out what's going on here.
Well, I mean,
It
even
becomes like
to
your
like
news.
a lot of these local pros or even pros in general, like surf companies are looking at what their Instagrams are like to go ahead and determine whether that's someone they want them riding for them. So it's now turned a lot of these surfers, like I remember with like little pros and stuff like that, they'd be like the biggest dicks in the world. They were horrible, they were mean. And they were like, oh, pretentious and stuff like that. And then now it seems like Instagram, in order to get signed, you can't be that person. Right?
You gotta be liked.
You're an
At least
ambassador.
not on
You're
the internet.
representing.
You gotta be like.
Right.
You can be a bratty little.
Right, but but a lot of times they're
Sweet.
not, even in the water and stuff like that, because they want you to like them, they want you to follow them, and because the more they have that, the better of a chance they're going to have with the companies that they represent to be able to get paid or get product or whatever the case is.
Totally makes sense.
That it's funny how it's changed all that. Like, you're like, oh, I got to curate who I am accordingly for. I mean, we can go into a whole separate podcast as far as that goes.
Save it for next time.
Well, we're at like an hour.
Let's get out of here.
Let's break it down.
It's July 27th. This was episode 4, season 2 of Talk Story with Miguel and Caleb and Christian. We did it from my place in South Beach, right up the block from the new location of the first shop.
If you follow Thank You Surfing,
You
the
get- you
window's
get a
right
view.
over there
Yep,
that the photo gets taken out of.
You get a view to a kill.
I won't tell you where I live though,
No, of course not.
and no one could ever figure it out.
For sure not.
It would be impossible.
Triangulation. There's every once in a while one from a different spot, but that might be the real spot.
It could be. You don't know
You're
where.
right.
There's
it is,
other
yeah.
people in the spot.
Or is
There's multiple spots.
Maybe.
There's a few spots, and then every once in a while you see one from Martin County, and you're like, "How did he do that?"
Or directly on the sand.
Aretha Rumble?
Every once in a while,
Aretha.
somebody walks down there and
Aretha.
there's not a wave, and they send a photo, and then he posts that one instead.
It does actually freak my family out when I'll be with them in New York or on vacation somewhere, and
There's still a picture that
they'll
comes up.
see
They
the
see the
picture
Thank You
and they're
Surfing
like,
profile.
"How did you?" And I'm like,
By magic.
I just went real quick, just make sure. make sure that the swell of the year wasn't coming through.
Be like, I got a guy.
BRB, mom.
I got a guy. Thanks for joining us. It's fun to do this all the time, and we hope you guys enjoy checking it out. Write to us. Caleb, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Write to us. ThankYouSurfing@gmail.com. DM us.
Slide into that.
The
First
thing is,
Street.
we were
Messages
talking
on
about
Facebook.
maybe
Yes.
maybe
Let's
making
go
a
there.
segment or whatever of like reading what you send us. So if
Yeah.
you send us stuff, emails or DMs, but then we talk about it on the next show if it's good. So send us something to make it good.
Mm-hmm. What he said.
Give me something good.
Because it's not long enough as it is, we should definitely add a segment.
Yeah, we're going to do the book segment, and then we're going to read your emails.
Can I do my last photo now?
Yeah,
Because I had one last one.
Let's do it.
And I know if I look on the computer what page it was.
Oh, you took notes about it.
187.
Very well
Gosh,
prepared.
look at that.
Oh.
Sean Thompson.
It wasn't this, but it probably should have been 187.
Right
Let's
in
see.
the little boards.
If you have the book, that's.
Oh
not it,
my
but
gosh,
good
Tom Curran
damn.
at back door.
Wait, that definitely should have been it. Let's see
That
if
was
this is any
beautiful.
better.
That's
okay.
the one.
187. Oh, because
Yep.
this. Okay, I don't know how you find this picture on the internet, but if you're watching the video, you can kind of see it. This guy is missing a fin, and he gets the photo.
Miguel, get your head in there.
This is bananas.
Yeah, he's just all on rail.
He's going. Where is he?
Pipe.
He's on. He's at
Pipeline.
pipe. He's
Eric
riding
Diaz
this thruster.
on
Eric
two
Diaz.
fins and a prayer. Missing
And
a
the
scene.
two fins are the center one, and he's going left backside at pipe, and it's his toe
inside-
side,
yeah, his
his
inside
toe
fin.
side
His
fin,
ins-
which is completely out of the water, as well as the center fin, and he has no heel side fin, and he's just like sitting on his ass and the rail.
At big pipe.
I really want to know what happened after this
a
photo,
rail and a prayer.
because if he made
Rail and a
that,
prayer. There you go.
there's nothing like that's insane.
A testament to the shaper and the rail line that he's got going on there, and what that does in surfing aside the fins, and kind of, I mean, at that point right there, whether or not he escapes or not, I wonder if there's following photos or sequence photos.
If he
that
did
shows
though, that felt so good.
I bet
mean,
you. I bet you he doesn't even know the fin is missing.
No, he was planning on being on the rail at that point.
I mean,
anyways.
he's ass dragging. He has to ass drag.
Yeah,
that.
he's just glissading down the mountain.
And at this point, this
Glissading?
is yeah.
Yeah,
What a word.
It's almost
I
like
it.
glistening and cascading.
it's kind of like that's my goal surfing is glissading. That's why this
Glissading.
photo is like
This is a glistening cascade.
Well, there you go, kid.
going backside.
That's goals.
Like Pavones going backside. All I'm gonna do is just glissading.
Oh.
Grab rail and just sit on the wave.
Sounds like he's
That's
already
my
like
plan.
in there.
A little bump your butt.
we are very interested to see that.
I don't know if it'll pan out.
We
We'll
will
see.
post these photos from the book with Caleb's face next to them or something, and we'll put a link if one is available because it's a pretty cool book. It's one
Go
of those.
buy it.
These are one of the books that you get like your mom and dad to get you for Christmas, or
Perfect.
someone's like, I don't know, I just need to get you something. You're just like, yeah, these surf photo books are like $50, and you can buy me that. And they're always like, oh, good, it's not like $1,000, and like I know I can get it from Amazon.
Right.
Good deal.
Sweet.
Good shit, boys.
We already outroed, so we're out of here, huh?
Bye.